Welcome to episode 69 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's January 8, 2010, and today's story is one of the hardest kinds of football history to tell, because it's about the moment a team stops being a team and becomes a target in somebody else's conflict. Togo have qualified for AFCON, the Africa Cup of Nations. They brought Adebayor, their global star, and a squad that has had to scrap its way through the qualifiers. They arrive in Angola for the AFCON, and on a road in the Cabinda enclave, the team bus is attacked. So today we'll do three things. We'll explain how Togo got here, the sliding doors qualification path that puts them in this tournament in the first place. We'll set the scene in Cabinda, why the team is traveling there, what the region is, and how the match logistics collide with a live security reality. And we'll cover the aftermath, the shock, the withdrawal, and what changed in AFCON security thinking after the unthinkable happened. We start with the tournament architecture. AFCON 2010 sits in a World Cup year, and in this cycle the qualification pathways are entangled. The same long CAF campaign is serving as both World Cup qualifying structure and AFCON qualification pressure. It's a format that makes every window feel like it carries two destinies at once. For Togo, that pressure produces a campaign defined by rescue moments. One of the biggest comments on October 11, 2008 is last match day urgency. It's the need to swing goal difference, points, and mood. The whole thing. It's Togo versus Swaziland. A goalless draw would mean that Togo was eliminated. Instead, Togo respond with a 6-0 clobbering, and Emmanuel Adebayor scores 4. It's one of those matches that doesn't just add numbers to a record. It changes the story's probability, because without it, the campaign can easily dip into nearly. But the nearly feeling doesn't go away. In the final group phase, the margin is tightened again. There's a heavy defeat away, a 0-3 in Gabon in June 2009. That was the result on the pitch, and afterwards it was realized that Togo had fielded an ineligible player, so Gabon was effectively awarded the match with the same result. But it's this kind of situation that makes qualification appear fragile and forces a team to keep chasing redemption rather than cruising. And then it comes down to the last day, November 14, 2009. Togo beat Gabon 1-0, and at the same time Morocco lose at home to Cameroon. And that combination is decisive. Togo qualified. Had it been the other way around, Togo would have been eliminated. These near eliminations matters to the emotional center of this story, because it tells you what kind of trip this is. This isn't a team gliding into a tournament as a formality. This is a tight-knit team arriving as survivors. Now to Angola and to Cabinda. Cabinda is not just another host city. It's an Angolan exclave, physically separated from the rest of Angola, and it has long-running separatist conflict history. Angola's civil war has ended, the country is rebuilding, but Cabinda remains its own political and security reality. Togo are headed there because their first match of the tournament is scheduled in Cabinda. They meet Ghana on January 11, 2010 at the Estadio do Chiasi, and the movement into Cabinda becomes the hinge point. On January 8, as the delegation travels by road into the enclave, the bus is attacked. Gunfire hits the vehicle, panic hits the group, people are wounded, and 3 members of the Togo delegation are killed. The bus driver, the assistant coach, Arbalo Amelete, and the team spokesman, Stanislas Oklu. It's the kind of event where football vocabulary breaks. Injury sounds clinical. Incident sounds bureaucratic. In reality, it's terror and trauma. The next question, the one people ask because the mind needs a frame. That is, why them? This is where insurgency logic is brutal. The separatist group most associated with the attack framed it as part of its conflict with the Angolan state, and reporting at the time included claims that the intended target was the security escort rather than the players themselves. But the deeper point is this. An international team is an amplifier. Even if the political target is the state, the media outcome is the world. A local conflict becomes global news in a single burst. Now move inside the team. Some players reportedly wanted to play, to assert meaning, to refuse fear, to turn trauma into defiance, and to celebrate those who were hurt. Others could not imagine playing because the shock was still in their bodies. Adebayor's reaction was immediate and visceral. He spoke of the experience in the language of horror, and the emotional truth is obvious. Even elite athletes do not become immune to violence because they wear national shirts. They are persons too. Togo ultimately withdraw from the tournament, and then comes the institutional collision. CAF responds as a competition authority. Withdrawal is treated as a breach of obligations, and sanctions follow, a fine, and a ban from future AFCON editions. That response is widely seen as harsh because it looks like a tournament disciplining a team for not continuing after an armed attack. But even here, there's an important technical truth. Football governance is built around rules designed for sporting integrity, not for trauma events. And sometimes, confederations default to enforcement before they find humanity. The story doesn't freeze here. The tone-deaf sanction is challenged, and the ban is later lifted. But the reputational damage to the idea of football governance understands reality has already been done. So what changes after Cabinda? Immediately the sport relearns something it often forgets. Team travel is not an administrative detail, it's a vulnerability. Movement routes, border crossings, convoy planning, venue selection, intelligent liaison, escort protocols, all that stops being background logistics and becomes front-page risk. Cabinda also becomes part of a broader modern sports pattern. Major tournaments have to play not only for the match, but for everything around the match. Security is not just terrorism. It's transport corridors, it's crowd movement, it's emergency response, and it's clear command structures when uncertainty hits. And that matters now more than ever. Modern tournaments are bigger, denser, and louder. More teams, more venues, more travel, more surfaces when something can go wrong. So the constructive legacy is not paranoia, it's professionalism. Security planning becomes a core tournament competence, as essential as medical staffing, officiating, and pitch standards, because the cost of getting it wrong is not a bad headline, it's human life. So what should we take away? 3 points as always. First, qualification campaigns are journeys that place people in real-world environments. Togo's route to AFCON was dramatic, fragile, and earned. And that's exactly why what happened next felt so cruel. Second, political violence doesn't care about football, but football gets pulled in anyway, because football is visibility. A tournament can become a stage even when it never asked to be one. And third, institutions learn, sometimes painfully, and the only acceptable direction after a tragedy is better protection. The goal is not to stop football. The goal is to make football safer, because the people inside the game are not abstract assets. They are lives. On this day in 2010, football was reminded of its vulnerability and of its obligation to keep people safe around the beautiful game. That's all for episode 69 of OTD, Cabinda, Togo, and the AFCON that reshaped how football thinks about security. If you have memories of that AFCON, that era, or how it changed the way you watched international football, email me at otd@17lawsky.com. Tips and corrections are always welcome. And please rate us 5 stars, subscribe, and tell a friend, because daily podcasts don't climb on their own. Tomorrow on episode 70, we go to January 9, 1946, the first FA Cup season after World War II, when the game is rebuilding itself under conditions that will sound almost impossible now. See you then.